I think our position need not to be overemphasized, that the idea the opposition is coming up with of us going into a referendum, I think can be summarized to a person who is living in utopia, a person who is at, we call it cloud 9, a person who is dreaming, a person who is fantasizing. At the moment, our country and the leadership of this country is keen to ensure that we have economic revolution in this country. We are keen in delivering our 172 promises that we gave Kenyans. Among them, the Hustlers Fund. Yesterday, we were celebrating 1 year of existence since we launched the Hustler Fund. We have been able to roll out programs that we promised Kenyans. The Universal Healthcare Program. You know, all the community health promoters are now well equipped and are earning a stipend from the government. We have been able to concentrate and deliver subsidized fertilizer to all the registered farmers on our digital platform. And therefore, our focus as a party and as a government is to ensure that we deliver on the mandate of the people of Kenya, the mandate the people of Kenya gave us, and we are saying that we shall not be deterred. We shall not be confused by the BBI stories. So we want to ask our political opponents to shun away from imagining that we can go for a referendum right now. We are not going for any referendum. We are focused to ensure we deliver the mandate the people of Kenya bestowed upon us. Thank you.
We have come here to profile our assets, whether it is in the Sahel region, where my brother, the president of Mauritania, comes from. The renewable assets of solar in that part of the world are immense, and we want to use those resources for the growth of our continent. Whether it is renewable assets in other parts of our country, whether it is renewable hydro energy in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, these are assets that are available to us. Whether it is the huge Hinga Dam in DRC and Congo that we can use to generate renewable energy, or the geothermal resources, wind, solar in East Africa, in Kenya, in Burundi, in Rwanda, in Tanzania. These are assets that are available to us as a continent, and we want to bring these assets onto the table so that we can leverage on these assets for industrialization of our continent, to create jobs, to create opportunity, and to make sure that we even the scales on the development of our globe. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to this very important session where we will be discussing opportunities for industrialization, opportunities for manufacturing, using the assets we have, using the gas resources that we have, how we can transition and use gas as a transition energy source. Those of us who have huge gas resources everywhere in Africa can have the opportunity to use these resources as a transition energy into renewable energy as we move into the future. We want to use our renewable energy to drive our industrialization. I want to contextualize for this meeting so that we all know that this is not talk, that this is not a story. This is real investment decisions and real investment opportunities. I will take this opportunity to announce some of the concluded investment opportunities in the renewable energy space, so that investors who are sitting here, development partners who are sitting here, financial institutions who are sitting here can know that we have real investment opportunities and we are serious about using renewable energy and turning the existential threat that we face into real opportunities for industrialization, for investment, for job creation, and for development imperatives. Indonesia's Pertamina and UAE's Mazda jointly are investing in geothermal project, and phase 1 they will be investing $1 billion, and phase one will generate 300 megawatts of geothermal power. I don't know whether Mohammed Jamel Ramani is here, or right here, from Mazda. We have Paul Ngugi of GDC, I don't know whether he's here, right there. And then we have Julfi Hadi, President and Director CEO of Pertamina from Indonesia, right there. Can we have a round of applause for those gentlemen for concluding this investment of close to $1 billion in renewable energy that will generate energy that will go into electric motor vehicle manufacture, that will go into solar panel manufacture, and that will go into leather manufacture. Green leather, green solar panels, green EV motor vehicles. Let me also make two more announcements. United Green and Kenya Development Corporation also investing in smart agriculture, 15,000 hectares of climate smart, high carbon sequestering precision agriculture, and broad acre row cropping, an investment of $275 million in this smart agriculture. You remember I told you Africa is home to 65% of uncultivated arable land. Do we have the people involved in this program? They are right here, right there. Those are the great people who have concluded that program, $275 million of investment in smart agriculture. Let's round of applause for them.
What next? Where do you see the UK making further contributions in the financial arena? Prime Minister Sunak.
Thanks, Kristalina, and it's been good to work with you on this topic for some years now. I guess let me start by saying that I recognize the frustrations about the limits of development and climate finance, right? If you look at it, developing countries pay 5 times more to borrow on private capital markets. Investment in renewables is growing at an extraordinary pace, but right now, I think less than 2% of that is going into Africa. Yep. And, you know, President Ruto has argued previously, others have, that that situation is completely indefensible. And I agree. I think we would all agree with that. And that's why the $30 billion Global Climate Fund that's been announced is so welcome. It's why the Global Climate Framework is so important. And I'm pleased that the UK is supporting that. But if we want, Kristalina, as you said, this bigger, better financial system that's going to help us get the SDGs back on track, deliver all the Paris agreements, and actually reverse biodiversity loss, then I think there are probably 3 areas where we need to focus, and it overlaps a lot with Emmanuel said earlier. I think the first is we just need fresh thinking about how we do this. And that's why a while ago we pioneered the use of climate resilient debt clauses, so that climate disasters don't become economic disasters, and those should be standard across the board by 2025. They will make an enormous difference. We need reform of the financial institutions. You and I have spoken about that in the past, and we support a conditional capital increase for the World Bank, and Ajay is sitting there, because where we can stretch these balance sheets to make a difference, we should, and I know that we will, which will be welcome to many people. So that's the first thing, is fresh thinking in how we do things. I think the second thing is just we need to dig deep and find the resources. So, you know, we're here today as the UK announcing over £1.5 billion of new initiatives, not only to the Loss and Damage Fund, which it's crucial that we've got that off the ground, but also for forest sustainability, which Emmanuel and you touched on with President Ruto, which is an incredibly important part, and we will deliver on our commitments. We feel a responsibility to deliver on the £11.5 billion of climate finance that we promised, and we will do that. And then I think the third area is to recognize that this can't be done with public money alone. And that's why leveraging private sector capital is so critical. London is an enormous global financial center. I took a decision 3 years ago to make it a net zero aligned financial center, and that is having an enormous catalytic impact. And in particular, things like carbon markets, which Ajay will talk about later, I think, are crucial for harnessing that private capital into those countries who need it, but also been creative about insurance products. Again, it's a big strength of London, and where we can have creative, inventive insurance products that work, that will leverage capital that we need at scale. So look, I think COP President said at the beginning, we need a step change in our approach to this, but if we do things in those three buckets, which again overlap with what others have said, I'm highly confident we can deliver that change.
So very much agree with you. Thank you.
The Damage Fund is critical because it provides essential grant funds post-disaster, and that is absolutely necessary. But the scale of its capitalization will be a concern to all if it is not properly capitalized. And that's why we feel that a mechanism that allows both for capitalizing the loss and damage, but increasing what is available to you with the Resilience Sustainability Trust and what is available to development banks for resilience funding is equally critical. We've been talking about public money, which has to continue. We've been talking, however, also about mechanisms for non-state actors contributing. And whether it is through the international taxation that Emmanuel is speaking about, where we can spread the burden, not just to the oil and gas companies, which we've said, if you've made $4 trillion in profits last year, $200 billion will not hurt you. Treat 95% of your profits as 100% and give the other 5% to be shared between a loss and damage fund and financing resilience and adaptation through the mechanisms. Similarly, we're asking people, and I'm conscious of the time, so please, we're asking people to look at how do we share the burden. Each of us wants to save the planet. Now, if we have 4 billion people traveling last year, who is going to stop traveling because of a $5 or $10 US charge per ticket? And that allows everybody to be able to share the burden, as William and Emmanuel are looking to do with the International Taxation Force. Similarly, you have $7 trillion in goods moving on ships last year. If you put 1% on that, that's another 70 billion. So when you take 200 from oil and gas and you take 70 billion from international shipping, not to be passed on to the consumer, by the way, and when you take equally another 40, 50 billion from international travelers, air travelers, and then you look at what is